Hey everybody, my name is Chike Kamara and you are watching the Short Film Ideas channel, and I am currently doing a 10-day short film idea challenge, and we are on day 8. So each day for 10 days I come up with a short film idea, and then I post it on YouTube, and I give you my source, my thoughts on the source, and then I give you the idea. What I'm attempting to do is give you a process that you can use to come up with short film ideas fairly simply. So let's get right into day 8. And here we go. Okay, so for the source, I was watching Nickelodeon. No, not for me. There's nothing wrong with Nickelodeon, but I was watching Nickelodeon with my one of my young sons, and one of the characters on one of the shows really wanted a girl, so he changed his whole persona up because he thought that she wanted somebody cool, and it didn't work. So it wasn't until he became his true self that he was able to amuse her and, go out on a date with the young lady. So while I'm sitting there kind of bored a little bit, I started daydreaming and an idea popped into my head. And one thing led to another. And then I came up with an idea that I started thinking, well, what if I can develop this into a short film idea? Okay, so basically, the seed of an idea I came up with is, what if, and this is sort of my thought process of my thoughts on the idea that popped on my head. Uh, what if there's a player in class and there's a teenager, just a regular teenager, not necessarily a nerd or a geek, and definitely not a player, who sort of eavesdrops on the so-called player's tactics as he's discussing brashly with other boys in the class, how he came up with this girl, how he got this girl or that girl, and the teenager decides to steal some of that game and use it for himself on a girl that he's been really trying to get, that he's been eyeing for a while. Okay, so let's say he uses that game to try to seduce the girl of his dreams. And then I started having little, visions in my head. And then I started thinking, okay, well, that's interesting, but how can we make it compelling? I need a problem to make it compelling to continue on. So I was like, okay, what if the girl that he tries to seduce with the player's game, that he stole, what if that girl is the ex-girlfriend of the player in his class? So that's definitely a problem. Okay, so I was like, okay, yes, that makes it compelling because we have a problem to solve. And so anytime you have a problem to solve, first of all, anytime you have an interesting idea and a problem to solve, then you can have a compelling idea. Okay. And then next you have to come up with an ending and then a beginning and a middle. And we'll get into that in a second. Okay. So that was my thoughts on that. And then I was like, okay, so I have a compelling dilemma. I have some sort of conflict. I have a tug of war of sorts, or I have some sort of clash here. I have an interesting idea where a teenager who is not a player steals stories from someone who is a player, or steals game, quote unquote, from a classmate who is a player who gets all the girls, and he tries to use him on a girl that he's been dreaming of being with, and that girl happens to be the ex-girlfriend of the player, unbeknownst to him. All right, so we have something there. Okay, so next I had to come up with an ending Because if I can't come up with an ending, then I have no story, and then I just move on to another idea. Okay. And so I wrote down a few possible endings, which is always good. And then you can pick the one that best, the best one. And so the end I came up with is the teenager exposes the player as a not so tough guy. They become friends and he keeps the girl. Okay. Now remember, when I come up with these beginning, middles, and end, the beginning, middle, and end, the rough beginning, middle, and end, it's just a rough, it's not the actual idea. I'm just trying to come up with an ending. So if I say that a teenager steals stories or steals game from a player to use on another girl, and that the ending is the teenager exposes the player as a not so tough guy and they end up becoming friends and he keeps that girl, then okay, I have an ending. Okay, I have something to work with. Okay, then I go back and I try to come up with a few beginnings, possible beginnings, and the beginning I came up with is a teenager steals a player's game to use on a girl. So it's just basic. Okay, then I come up with the middle, and the middle is that I chose is the teenager uses the player's game on the player's ex-girlfriend, unbeknownst to him, and it was an epic fail. So he drops the game and appeals to the girl as himself. She falls for him, they fall for each other. Okay, and then you have the end, because you have to solve the problem of the player's ex-girlfriend. I mean, the player isn't going to be like, she's just my ex-girlfriend, whatever. It's an ego pride thing there. So the teenager is going to have to, expose the player as a not so tough guy. And you do that through, when you actually write the script, you do whatever you need to do to work that situation out, to solve that situation. I'm coming up with the idea. Okay, so I'm not giving you I'm not writing the story. I'm coming up with the idea, and you just find a creative way in your way to solve the problem. Okay. All right. So, and so the idea I came up with is a teenager steals game from a player in his English lit class, from a ladies man player, whatever, and uses them to seduce the girl of his dreams, who happens to be the player's ex-girlfriend. After a confrontation with the player, the teenager exposes the player as a not so tough guy. They become friends, and the teenager and the girl start dating. That's it. That's the idea I came up with. Like I said, I can come up with an idea from anywhere, and you can too. You just find a situation that's interesting to you. And one way to do that is if you see a situation and it makes you laugh, then if it makes you feel any kind of emotion, then it's interesting to you. It should be interesting to you. If it's not interesting to you, you're not going to laugh. You're not going to be sad. You're not going to be amused. You're not going to cry, whatever. You have to feel some sort of emotion. And once you do, you have a chance to come up with a good idea. Okay. All right. So that is it for today. And I hope you enjoyed. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 9, and we're almost at day 10. And signing off